Hi everybody, Golden Era Bookworm here again, doing a review now on Your Physique of July 1950 with Reg Park on the cover. I believe this is Reg Park's first ever cover on a Joe Weider magazine. He is featured here as Reg Park the Great, and we can see the influence on the cover of the magazine. I mean, it's very colorful, but you can clearly see two elements, and I find this cover very unique. We can see the American flag on one side and the British flag on the other, so it's kind of like Reg Park from Britain lands in the United States. I think this is a great cover, and yeah, I think it's a beautiful cover, very colorful, showing the phenomenal physique of a very young Reg Park after he had just won the Mr. Britain in 1949 and then arrived in America in 1950. Now, again, the articles at Your Physique in Your Physique magazine just get better and better with time, especially these ones now from the early 50s. We've got the Mighty Goerner, which I already covered in a previous video. This particular article inspired me to do a video on the Mighty Goerner, the man who wrestled with elephants is shown here, and would do fantastic stunts such as I believe, yeah, brace cars on top of his shoulders and lift them with 6 people inside. Can you believe it? I've already done a video on this. You can actually see this photo blown up there. It's a great article of the Mighty Goerner, and I mean, this guy was blind in one eye and partially disabled from his time in the army and in battle, where he was I think injured with shrapnel in one of his forearms. It's incredible that he still managed to recover from these debilitating injuries and still become such a well-known strongman of the time. Truly one of the strongest men ever, even disabled. Can you imagine what this man would have been able to do had he not suffered from post-war injuries? It's just incredible. So we've got Reg Park, of course, featured on the cover, as well as an article of my chest development, which also inspired me to give an article on the great Reg Park and his chest routine in 1950. Here's a very unique and aesthetic pose of Reg Park, doing a very unique style of side chest pose with a sword, of course, as most bodybuilders did back in the day, when bodybuilding was still truly an art form, not like it nowadays where it's become some gruesome and grotesque kind of display of musculature, in my own opinion. Making Champions was a great article that also inspired me to create a video on the a kind of silver era blueprint, and you can find that also linked above. I think I called it something like the ultimate guide to silver era beginners bodybuilding, something like that. Floyd Page gave an excellent article here of the use of different types of equipment, but then actually touched on important topics for beginners, which, as I said, really inspired me to create a video on the subject. And basically what is featured in this particular article is the mention of a lot of gimmicks, and I'm really glad that back then even Joe Weider admitted that some of these things were gimmicks, and I've shown you some of these things, such as the iron horseshoe, not necessarily a gimmick, but not necessary for every person, or these squeezing things, light dumbbells, and all these other little apparatuses that you can train with. But at the end of the day, Floyd Page says it very clearly, to build a physique in the silver era, at least, when there were no machines, you needed dumbbells and barbells. And the method, obviously, progressive resistance training, the type of routine, full body, 3 times a week, real basics, the diet, wholesome, natural, whole foods, no need for supplementation. All of it was covered here and more. It was a great article, and of course I had to share that kind of information because I thought it was very valuable for beginners. So you can check out that video if you like. Another great photo there of a young Bud Counts. I'll zoom that in, why not? It's quite unique photo, a very interesting way of doing a front double biceps, seeing that he brings his elbows forward to actually accentuate the flare of his lats and the view of his serratus muscles Again, a great bodybuilder from the silver era, which I'll be covering in the future, of course. These early photos are great though, great photos. Then there was some pretty not so interesting articles such as type training. I won't go into that. I didn't really find that interesting. Although this particular article, Stronger Tendons and Stronger Muscles by George F Jowett, I did base this article, I based a video on this particular article, finding it was very useful information, especially for those that wish to break plateaus, in that it trains so this particular article explains how to train the ligaments of the arms and the legs, especially saying that the joints eventually become the sticking points, the strength of your joints, which is the true fundamental structure of which your muscles will be built upon. And this is what is stressed so heavily, especially in the silver era, by those that taught the bodybuilders of the silver era, such as George F Jowett or David Willoughby, or for those of those that actually practice the bodybuilding, like Alan Steff and Steve Reeves. A lot of them, and even Reg Park, a lot of these guys stress the importance of developing stronger tendons to get stronger muscles. This is why it's in a circle, without stronger tendons, without stronger joints, without a strong structure, you cannot have larger or bigger muscles. It just makes common sense. And this particular article stresses that so well. And again, I've done a video on this, which you can check out on my YouTube channel. Now here is an interesting article on who was the strongest presser of all time. And although the problem with two hands press, as I've stressed before in other videos, is the technique is deferred throughout Europe, throughout the whole world actually. You had the French style, which was a very classical technique based, which is what is used nowadays in Olympic weightlifting, and you had the continental style, which was the continental was based in Germany, which was basically using brute strength. And you can see all these other guys who are absolutely massive, these strong men, obviously use the continental style, and in doing so were able to almost perform what you could almost call a standing bench press, where they would bend all the way backwards in the continental press and use not just their shoulder muscles but their tricep strength and chest strength. So these muscles were also used in the movement, and they could handle well over 300 pounds. Now, pound for pound, it is concluded in this article that John Davis was the greatest presser of all time, because he was just, I believe, around the 200 pound mark, and able to press relatively heavier weights than these guys that were at least 300 pounds. So John Davis was named as the strongest presser of all time, and no doubt about that, of course. He was one of the greatest heavyweight Olympic athletes ever, wasn't he? A final article that I found very interesting was the smiling Superman Roy Hilligen from South Africa, who was a vegetarian, a lacto-ovo-vegetarian, and developed a phenomenal physique. He was incredibly strong, and you can also find that video on my YouTube channel. A great legend from the silver era is all I can say. He's always smiling, as you can see. He had a fantastic smile, and he's remembered for his strength, his incredible strength, and his fantastic personality. Roy Hilligen, a great bodybuilder and legend from the silver era. These are the articles that I found so interesting in the July edition of 1950 Your Physique, a Joe Weider magazine. A magazine for men who want to improve their bodies, featuring Reg Park on the cover. Hope you've enjoyed watching this video, this review of Your Physique, July 1950. If you have, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't to the Golden Era Bookworm. Leave me your comments, and thank you for watching. And if you'd like to support my work, you can donate via PayPal or become a Patreon, or visit my website for courses and books on old school training, silver, golden, and bronze era of bodybuilding. Anyway, that's it from me. This is the Golden Era Bookworm. Bye for now.